Morning, y'all.
Hey.
How you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm going to take one more shot at your trademark. I think third time's the charm.
Hell yeah. No, especially after visiting with Savannah Food Tours, just didn't realize just how difficult it is to get a trademark with a municipality or a state in the name. So appreciate your efforts.
Trademark is descriptive because it
Right.
describes the thing it is. So it's kind of weird to try to get a trademark on it, but you've used it for so long that you have secondary meaning.
Yeah.
So we'll try again. I'll call that guy again.
Okay.
Oh, hello.
Hey.
Well, good morning, Sajida.
Hello, good morning. I am
Morning.
going to be off camera, but I can hear you all.
That's all good. Let's see. We had a few more people that were chiming in to join us this morning. I'll give them a couple more minutes. To finish my coffee.
Let's do with you guys.
Apartment here in Berlin.
Yeah.
It's literally on the next block over where I'm staying right now. So whenever I come back, I can't move in until like Christmas Day, basically. So obviously I'm not doing that. But when I come back from Christmas break and New Year's in January, I'll move into my apartment. So I have a second bedroom officially, so I want everyone to come and visit. A free place to stay in Berlin. This is also the very hip part of Berlin, so lots to do.
Are they already putting Christmas stuff out there, or?
Yeah, I went to Christmas market the other day.
How was that?
It's good. It's not the Christmas markets that are out right now are the like very commercialized ones, so they're not like the traditional German ones. But I guess like after like beginning of December is whenever like the authentic ones really come out. So
Very cool.
Mark, would you mind texting Bria to see if she can join?
Yes.
I know she was going to. Send a message to Anat and Andon.
Message sent.
Well, since we're about 5 minutes past the hour, how about we get started, and hopefully we'll have some additional people join in.
Sure.
And kick it off. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's 12:05. Welcome everyone to the kickoff for the Green Light Committee for L-17 Capital Ventures Studios. What we are going to be discussing today is kind of an open forum of what we've accomplished so far within the studio, and some basic guidelines for what we think the Green Light Committee can become. Most of what the Green Light Committee will become will be based on some of the feedback that we received today. So we would like participants to actually co-author what this is and how it works. So here's our agenda today. We'll go through a brief summary of what we think the Green Light Committee is and kind of how this idea came about. You'll get an update on where we're at in the studio. And then the majority of this meeting is actually a working session where I'll post questions to you and see what you think and what your feedback is. Then we'll talk about some next steps and some tangible action items. And then one of the key things is an open discussion. So it's an opportunity for you to bring up anything and everything under the sun. It can be concerns, it can be compliments, it can be the fact you don't like my haircut, it can be anything. The idea here is that all feedback is valuable to some degree, and it's really feedback without judgment. So a couple of ground rules for everybody. As far as these kind of feedback and forum opportunities, it's candor over politeness. Please be honest, be blunt, let us know if something really doesn't mesh well with you. Let us know. We need your feedback and your thoughts. Questions are contributions. If you have a question, if something is confusing or you don't understand it, chances are somebody else doesn't either. So please feel free to speak up. There's no such thing as a perfect answer. If somebody asks you a question, you don't have the answer, you don't need to create the perfect answer. That's okay. If you say, I don't know, but here's what I think it is, or here's who I think we should talk to get confirmation, great. We do ask that when you make a suggestion, you either bring up a suggestion based on experience, or you bring up an idea that you say, hey, I can probably bounce this off of somebody else that has done this to validate it. Ideas without grounding can sometimes lead us down a rabbit hole without any results. So, confidentiality. Think about it as everything that happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, this is Vegas and Vegas rules apply. So anything and everything that is discussed today, please keep it confidential between us. Fact versus opinion. Please make sure that if you are presenting something that's your opinion, let us know. Opinions are valuable, but if it's a fact based on something, that's also important. And the bias towards action. When in doubt, iterate on the idea and decide, make the next step forward, and then iterate around it later if we need to. That's kind of the consensus of run at the wall as quickly as you can and see if you can make it move. So what does success look like for today? I'm just curious, and this is kind of open discussion for everybody. When y'all were in your labs projects and the teams that were created, what was successful about them, and what was not successful about them? And this is for everybody.
Ryan, I think we can talk about what was not successful.
Oh, yeah, you want to kick off? I mean, just
I think
clear.
delineation of like actions and stuff was probably the biggest issue with our lab group.
That communications, who was actually in charge of doing what. We were presenting great ideas that seemed to get acknowledged yet not executed. Yeah. So I don't know. I felt like we didn't actually deliver a product that we were satisfied with. The event still happened, but I think it was going to happen regardless. And the pitch was better than the project.
I would agree with that.
I think we had a similar experience in our lab group, and I think initially the issue was that because Loyal is a subset of just a lot of type A people, nobody really wanted to step on anyone's toes and be like, hey, I'm going to take care of this. And everyone just kind of assumed somebody else was going to take care of this, until much later where we're like, okay, we got to have one person be in charge to get this done.
I'll speak for mine. We very early on established like who are the in charge people. Who is, we had Bria as our fearless leader, and then we were very good about delegating areas of projects and setting up subcommittees within our committee to where it's like, okay, Mark and Sam are working on this part, that aspect of it, and here's what they're going to deliver, and like how to report out to each of our meetings. And so I think putting a structure, and we established ground rules from the beginning of, like what Aaron said, of candor over politeness. And so we had that. That worked well for us.
Jada, I know you and I were in the same labs project. I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are.
And just a heads up, I really wanted to join this meeting, but I'm not in a position to like chime in as much as I'd like today. I have to head out around like 11:30. But I think for us, the biggest thing was the expectations that was set. So like, I think, once we got on a better cadence with the committee, with the upward transition committee, it got better. But initially there was a bit of a, at least from my perception, of kind of a lack in like, what is the expectation versus deliverable. I thought our team was really well balanced. I think we had a really good balance of like, with Sam on the marketing side, with DeAndre, Aaron, Mario, it was like really balanced. So for me, that positive was just like the diverse background and skill set that people brought, and we really honed on to that. Aaron, what
Yeah,
do you think?
I would agree. I think, early on we kind of established who was the key person with Austin to coordinate with upward transitions. And then kind of once we did get enough information to figure out what the heck we were working on, of kind of dividing up that work so that when we came back together, we could kind of review the collective work we have done, make adjustments, then kind of, pick assignments of what we needed to do next, and then work on that over the next month to come back and try again. So it was this kind of feedback loop of how does it get better and better each time. It was interesting. I felt like the longer it went on, the less engaged people became. But then it's because certain work was done and certain people's jobs were kind of like done and kind of moved on. But I think in this idea, this is an idea lab. This is a creative lab where you get to explore things. So hopefully we don't lose momentum. All right. So the question is why now? So when we think about the Green Light Committee, we think about the founders for L-17 as kind of being the very first Green Light Committee, because really none of us work in pediatric radiology, and we were iterating out ideas and trying a gazillion different things. And so we kind of found one that would actually address what is the backlog. So these are the four opportunities that we've identified. Between now and the end of the year, we're really focusing heavily on the Pediatric Imaging Center of Oklahoma. When we first started this venture, there was a backlog about 3 to 4 months. As of this summer, it has exceeded 13 months. That is over 22,000 kids waiting for an MRI, and about 60 kids are added to that every day. And we're just not really doing enough to affect the backlog. There's some other ventures that we'll cover, but these are kind of the general ideas as far as why we're exploring this. And the studio concept is really meant to be a think tank that investigates a problem, puts together a plan based on research, and then validates that plan with experts, with clients, with customers, with every stakeholder we can, and really test it out before you build the company. And as you build the company, you bring in additional staff, additional resources, and hopefully launch.
Hey, Aaron, quick question. And I'm gonna just ask probably more fundamental questions today because it's my first meeting, and I just want to have clarity. So, in thinking about like the venture studio, what was sort of the motivation behind kind of looking at the venture studio model versus really like working on like one and looking at the next one? I'm just trying to understand better.
That's a great question. So This came out of a realization, but halfway through, we initially just worked on Pico and what that would look like. That was going to be the first venture. What struck me was that really none of us were going to get into the point that we were going to be operating on a day-to-day basis, but that this process of kind of iteration and investigation, you know, what was actually producing far greater results and far greater, context than we were initially expecting. We thought this is going to be a hell of a task to try and get anything accomplished with a large hospital or a healthcare system without some sense of credibility. And even though we didn't have that credibility, we were still able to build momentum, which was surprising but nice. Am I frozen?
I can hear you.
No, good. So the studio concept, initially we were thinking about it as just a VC firm that we were, investing in this company, but simultaneously we were building the company. So I actually wasn't super familiar with the VC studio concept till recently. And it actually harkens back to almost like a producer's firm where you're working on one concept or one story to put it on its feet, and simultaneously you're developing the next one. There's something magical about not only the Labs projects, the Loyal experience, but the entire network. I'd say early on, about 75% of the contacts that we drew on to build momentum and traction came out of that alumni book. I just thought there is a built-in network of type A personalities that all have a vested interest in the success of Oklahoma City and Oklahoma at large. So what if we could continue to draw on those expertise and that leadership to identify problems that we all see are as affecting our state and our home, and then pull our resources and collective knowledge in a way that is synergistic, that can grow and produce dividends, not just in terms of profit, but in impact to our community. It's kind of a crazy idea that there is a force for good in this, and that it's never been capitalized and commercialized and turned into something that's not just, I feel good about being part of this nonprofit, but I'm even more incentivized because there is a financial return for it. Makes it a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I especially like the fact about kind of the operating support and credibility aspect to you, right? I think the venture studio model, it's pretty new to Oklahoma in general, but I think it's picking up, and yeah, it makes sense. Thank you.
And Srijita, thank you, because you provided several pieces of advice and insight and pointed me in the direction on several things that have kind of helped to develop this idea. So you don't realize it, but your signature is all over this thing. These are kind of the first 4 businesses we're looking at. The PICO is obviously the Pediatric Imaging Center of Oklahoma. Terraform 3D is a 3D printing construction business that will focus on single-family residential and low-income housing or labor housing. Element 3 is an early research project in extracting lithium from brine water. That would be kind of the wastewater from oil and gas wells. And then Lean Forward is a lean release SaaS program. Here, okay, sure. Moving on to the next one. So L-17, we're working on mission, vision, values, things of that nature. We are currently engaged with Candor PR to help us with our brand strategy, our communication strategy. We just completed a series of stakeholder interviews. We've got a workshop coming up at the beginning of December where the founding board members are going to participate and hopefully align on a cohesive mission, vision, values, and kind of what the communication and messaging strategy is going to be. This is the current draft, but don't get married to it because it's probably going to change. And there's the 6 people that were, strange enough to say, yes, we'll help you out and make this happen. So you might recognize a few faces here. Our very first meeting, when we got together to create and build Pico, we had an extensive conversation about the values. And the idea here is that if we are going to be a force for good, we need to create a filter and matrix to help our decision-making process. and that we wanted to lead from values that, again, focused on our home. When people think about businesses or what you do in a business or why you get into a business, they ask you, what is the big why? And this is always true. I think you can answer the question in kind of abstract sense as far as, this is a home, this is my home, I don't have kids, but why is this important to me? If you were to go to a soldier who is in a combat zone and you ask them, what is your why? Why are you doing this? They're not going to talk about patriotism. They're talking about, I don't know, man, I'm just trying to, protect the guy next to me. I'm just trying to help him out. And I think there's something about that rings true here, is that at the end of the day, we're just trying to help out our neighbors, our friends, our colleagues, to do the right things to help people and to elevate our home, because our home deserves that kind of attention. These are gaps that have been overlooked by conventional systems, by conventional financing. And we think, it's time to shake it up a little bit with an unconventional approach. But we felt that to do this authentically and with integrity, we needed to identify our core values. And this is kind of the consolidated version of all that. I think initially we had like 14. I thought that's going to be difficult to swallow. So what is the Greenlight Committee? This is a freestanding committee that is an advisory board that actually gets inside scoop on everything we are working on, and gets to provide feedback, provide guidance, provide leadership. And this is just kind of a general sense of what we envision. How it's going to operate is largely up to you, and what you want out of it is up to you. So why the Greenlight Committee? Well, just like we were trying to do early on, building the team creates accountability. Holds each other to task as far as what is the structure, who's responsible for what, who's leading the charge, and communicating with everybody to ensure that we're all on the same page. We're moving towards the goal. The other side of it is with the studio model, it's so easy for a single founder or a single CEO to get very, very arrogant and egotistical and think that their ideas are always great when they're really, terrible. So this was a way of always having some sense of an advisory council to check that, to balance that out and say, that's adorable, but that's not going to work. And let me tell you why. Credibility with investors and confidence. Everybody hears their expertise to help us vet these ideas. Builds credibility. Us having the opportunity to say, oh, we work with these people in these industries, signifies to investors that we've pressure tested these ideas with other experts. And then the mission drift. This helps an outside eye, a third party, to verify that we are staying true to our mission, true to our values. Just a general structure. We do think of this committee as an actual board committee made up of about 6 to 13 people, leaders of industry, not staff. You do not have to invest, but we're going to open that up to, if you want to, great. The committee members or committee roles, it's just like any other committee. There's going to be a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. From the studio side, all of our founding members will participate when they can. We're definitely going to have, every venture has an assigned executive or venture lead for the time being. And then I work as the studio CEO for right now. So I'll participate in all meetings. That's just kind of a high level view. Now, the Greenlight Committee, we created a cutesy decision framework. We're not married to this in any way, shape, or form. We can adjust this as needed. But the idea is that when you review a venture, you're giving it some semblance of, yes, keep moving. Yellow means keep moving, but we've got some concerns you need to address. Red means full stop, hang on. There's some issues you need to keep working on before you put any more money into this. And then kind of a black light would be saying, this doesn't work at all. This is not aligned with our mission. It's unethical, or, it's a terrible idea. Like getting into, defense contracting. That might not be aligned with our mission. This was, I think, sent out a couple weeks ago as far as what the structure was, but this is just a draft. So we're going to move on to the next part, which is kind of the think tank to execution. This is trying to create a linear model for what has been kind of an abstract constellation of data points. that all, once aligned, kind of lead us in the right direction of where we need to go and what our next step is. But the idea here is that we don't actually commit capital to an idea until we've tested it enough and we've got enough buy-in. So this is the part where it turns into kind of a working session. And I put this to everybody because this will help us to build what will become the Green Light Committee charter. When the committee votes, what threshold should make sense? Is it a simple majority? Is it a supermajority, a unanimous consent, or a sliding scale? And I'll give you an example. If we were to bring you a full business plan with all financials, all MOUs on PICO and say, we are looking for approval to move forward and start spending dollars on PICO, what would you need in order to say, let's do it? What kind of a vote should we have?
I'll chime in a little bit. So on our venture capital side, usually when we, so like I work on the venture development side, right? So we work pretty closely with the analysts and the principals on the firm side to essentially position these companies for investment. And I'm just kind of using this as an example because I think it's a proven structure, and this is a little different, but there might be some things we can look at. One is a investment memo. So essentially it is a little similar to a business plan, but in a business plan, you're really putting on your kind of your founder hat and you're talking about it from that standpoint, versus when you're talking about it from an investment memo, it's really using that critical thinking skills that goes beyond just talking about the business, but talking about the risk factors that are involved, what would need to be de-risked in order for this venture to be successful. So that is something I think is helpful for a committee to look at, because it's not just to look into, hey, these are the positive factors of this business venture, but these are really the risks that we are looking at. And in order for this venture to be successful or hit these certain milestones, these are the factors that need to be de-risked. So Aaron, I'm happy to kind of share any examples of like investment memos or stuff. And I don't know who would be the person to put that together. But I do think the structure really helps in thinking in terms of like really digging into the risks and factors that affect, say, an investment decision, or in this case, a green light decision.
That's a great idea. Please feel free to share that with all the founding members. I think it's going to default to me, but we'll circle back on that internally and figure out who's going to actually put that together. We are investigating the opportunity for a CFO, to hire a CFO, or contract a fractional one to kind of help put some of those documents together. That's a great idea. Assuming we have that kind of documentation and we have checked all the boxes as far as presenting a packet that is enough information to validate an idea, and this is whether it's PICO or it's lean forward, what kind of a vote threshold should we have to say, yes, let's move forward? Is it unanimous consent? Is it simple majority? Ryan, Jim, Mark?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just so I could say something, at least for just bylaws and board operating agreements, typically we use supermajority just to make sure that it's for more important decisions that we have more broad support, and we rely on simple majority for things where it's less controversial, but we still need some support. And unanimous consent is typically just to avoid any abuse of a minority party in these kind of events. Here, because it's a green light committee, it's still a pretty major decision that they're making, because it has to kind of do with whether or not capital is being deployed. So in my opinion, I would think a supermajority would be best for something like that, because it indicates a more broad support. And even if things change, there's at least it can resist more challenges to future change.
That's kind of the way I was leaning there, Jim, on the supermajority, since we are dealing with other people's money and everything. This definitely would give the green light. I typically don't see supermajorities a lot, but like you said, with bylaws and other things, typically, yeah. So I would be in agreement with what Jim suggested.
I was going to suggest, yeah, a supermajority for general things, and then potentially setting a threshold that would require unanimous consent. The threshold is probably something in the terms of like, spending $5 million on something.
Right.
So, okay. That's a good starting point. Okay, as far as communication goes, what's the best way to communicate with you when we have a quick update? I've been sending out those emails, but I recognize I tend to write novels and not everybody wants to read a novel in an email. So what's the best way to communicate with y'all? Is it email? Is it GroupMe? Is it monthly newsletter? What do you think?
Hey, I like the long emails. I'd rather have more information than less. I like when you summarize it. So, like, if I need to get something quickly, I can look at the top, but then look at the rest as well. I like the idea of a monthly newsletter. Doesn't have to be, I would say, like fancy, but almost like a investor update. Here's like the highlights, and by investor update, I mean the board update. But I like that combination. I'm active on GroupMe, especially with you guys, so I'm good about that with like urgent, quick. But I don't probably regularly check it as much as I check my emails.
I agree with just urgent updates or just quick straw polls using GroupMe. I would also possibly use that for when you send out an email. Like I typically check my emails, but just in case it's like, hey guys, just be sure, like, oh, new newsletter dropped or new email dropped. Like, okay, I'm more inclined to actually look at it, in a timely fashion versus when I get around to it, if I get around to it.
It's a great suggestion. Thanks, Rajita.
Thank you
I'll
all.
send you,
Yeah.
I will distribute the meeting minutes after this so that everybody has a copy. What does success look like as far as how do we meet? Do we want to meet in person, online, a hybrid? Do we want to do after the meeting? Is it a happy hour? Is it, pre-meeting coffee at Stitch or, 324? Is it better to meet over lunch? Is it better to meet on Mars? You tell me. Well, Ryan, you're the only participant that's not part of the founding board right now, so you may be making decisions for everybody else today.
Get to call the shots, man.
I'm good with probably after hours, especially like I know my schedule's fairly flexible, but depending on who you're looking for with the Green Committee and all that, maybe a simple like after work happy hour could potentially work.
Yeah, so the idea here is that we would probably meet either in person or through a hybrid thing,
Yeah.
to review things, and then afterwards it'd be kind of like a loyal meeting where we meet up for happy hour afterwards. I think the social dynamic is always important because
Mm-hmm.
things that don't get said in the meeting will get said at the social hour.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, it could other board and committee meetings that I partake in. The default is in person, but say inclement weather or school gets started back up or this, that, and the other, have the option to meet online as a secondary option, just so we still meet. But if the default is, of course, meet in person, then walking distance or not too far away from a watering hole.
If I'm in
Love
town,
that.
it's mandatory in-person happy hour. So
Okay, so what do you want out of this experience? Do you want to earn money? Do you want to be able to participate in investments? Do you want expense reimbursement, recognition? Experiences, iron sharpens iron learning. I didn't steal that from anybody. Is it dinners? Is it trips? Is it retreats? Is it access to conferences? Is it a fancy lapel pin or a decoder ring? Maybe even a secret code name, or just flat out being on the inside. So what we've done over the past 2 years is really a lot of iteration and doing the work of a LAPS team. But the thing I think I clued into recently was the part that was missing was the environment that we created out of Loyal because we had such a good class. Was that kind of immersive learning, working together on things that brought us really close together, and I think created that 1+1=3 effect. So I think about this in terms of, if we're evaluating a venture, we could take everybody on an out of town trip to explore a conference or to do a workshop. We could do a dinner where it's kind of like, here's the update and then enjoy dinner. It could be, in my mind, there's going to be some recognition for the Greenlight Committee in our annual updates as far as what they're working on or what they're approving. But I just wanted to put that out there and see if anybody had thoughts or comments. And this actually goes to the founding board as well.
We've workshopped this a lot of it and tried to figure out what a good way of thanking our friends that are participating on the green light, and how can we best, allow them to not just be doing this because they're good people and our friends, but also a good way of making sure that they're getting something besides feel goods out of it. So I do think, investment participation, that's one thing that we've talked a lot about, is opening that up to the GLC. And also, all the other fun things like getting Aaron's really fun newsletter emails and, having social activities for us that, L-17 is sponsoring. So, but yeah, and, when we hit it big, I think the L-17 suite at the Thunder Games is going to be the hot commodity.
Can't wait.
I also like that idea that we talked about before about giving the Greenlight Committee access to a fund to donate to their charities of their choices as well.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot too.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Let's see, where am I on my little chart? Okay, so this is really open conversation for everybody. What caught your interest today? What raises concerns? What are some blind spots? What ideas do you want us to explore a little more in depth? Ryan, sorry to put you on the spot, man, but you're the only outsider here.
That's why I went ahead and unmuted myself when I figured it'd be called on. So no, it helps that seeing and writing some of the conversations that you and I have already had, and just kind of starting to get into the actual nuts and bolts, I guess the parliamentary procedures, the boring stuff, but that's what makes it real and tangible. Is okay, what do we looks like when we get on the calendar? How do we decide the vote? Going to number 5, was today successful? I think so. I mean, seeing it again in visual format, again, makes it real. So I think today was a good introductory. And I mean, we're not going to be here for 2 hours, so I think the timing was good.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I mean, we're literally almost done. It's 2 or 3 more slides.
Right.
Great. It's a little harder to ask some of these questions when, limited participation. We did have more people signed up to join today, but, life happens. So that is one challenge we're going to continue to workshop as far as what's the best way to meet and get more people involved. Ideally, we'd like to have at least 6 people to balance out the founding board. But
Bria sends her apologies. I was just writing you a message. Both of her children are having simultaneous meltdowns, so they couldn't do
Gee.
so.
So
Yeah.
no, I think that'll be good. I know that's always a challenge. Establishing quorum would be. I mean, again, all that parliamentary procedure, fun stuff. Inviting Robert and his rules to this. But yeah, so actually now thinking about it, serving on a lodge board of trustees, we have 6 officers that kind of rotate through, and 6 board trustees that are voted on every few years. They rotate on and off, so every year someone comes up for a vote. So I think having, I wouldn't say robust, but I think 12 would be good to help, like the 6 founding members and then 6 others potentially. I mean, at least starting off there, it kind of gives you guys something to work for and work towards, trying to lock people in.
Yeah, I think we've established some good starting points that we can start to outline a green light committee charter, and then the trick to it is going to be figuring out who else needs to be involved and how we get them involved consistently, and finding an incentive that works for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but also gives them some ownership and authorship in what we're doing. I genuinely feel like there's not we think about ventures that are trying to do something good for the greater good and then a profitable business. Historically, those two things don't always mesh well together. And I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think those two things can be accomplished together, but one person making all the decisions as a CEO or founder rarely succeeds in doing that over long term. So having more people involved to kind of not rely on one person, but rely on consensus of sound experts in their field will theoretically produce results better than just one person making the decision. So, well, Ryan, are you interested in joining the Greenlight Committee?
Yes, thank you for having me and asking, and yes, I am interested.
I won't ask if you want to be an officer because that's really putting you on the spot. But we'll talk about. Huh?
Aaron, still, I know you had discussed with Perrin about kind of leading and wrangling. Is she still?
She is still interested in participating, but I'm not able to get a full 100% commitment out of her to being an officer. So I think that is still kind of up for grabs, but I think we can put together a charter, outline the roles, and present that to everybody and see if anybody chimes in.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about the decision framework and kind of some of the requirements that will be needed in order to activate a decision or to vote on a decision, and kind of what those thresholds are with a supermajority and then a unanimous consent for a threshold. We looked at a couple of different Greenlight Committee benefits. We'll start to zero in on exactly what those look like right out of the gate and what you can expect over the next year. Communications, that was really great feedback on communications, so thank you very much. We will continue to evolve and get better at how we're communicating with everybody. The next thing would be the first meeting, and since I only got one other person here, I will put that out to everybody in an email after this. So then what happens over the next 90 days? So we will distribute the meeting minutes as soon as this meeting is over. We will work on a draft of the charter based on the feedback from today. We'll circulate it for everybody to review. The next meeting will have some kind of officer elections. We're going to ask every member of the Greenlight Committee to sign a 2-year commitment. It's basically just one line or one page thing saying that you're agreeing to work and be an active participant in this advisory board for the next 2 years. We are going to ask everybody to sign an NDA just because this is Vegas rules. Everything that's confidential stays confidential. But that doesn't mean that you can't discuss things with people. It just means that anything of material nature, such as financials or who's investing, needs to remain confidential for privacy matters. And then we will look at scheduling the first meeting to present the Pediatric Imaging Center of Oklahoma. Our timeline is picking up. and we should be making a public announcement probably towards the end of the first quarter of 2026. So, and I can tell you that the project for Pico is roughly about an $11 million project. We have $3.8 million committed and an additional $6.5 million in debt financing for the equipment. So we're much further along than I think some of us expected, which is great. The CFO, I've got a job description for one. I talked to Jonathan Hampton and Sujita about that, got some good feedback on it. But we're also going to investigate whether we can do a contract CFO part-time, couple hours a week, versus hiring one full-time, because starting salaries for those are about $160,000. I've got an upcoming discussion with Sujita about public funding. Some of our ventures are candidates for public funding. And then boardroom facilities with AV. We actually found some really great resources at the downtown library that would accomplish that for like $10 an hour. It's nothing. And then I think Sujita has another opportunity over at the Verge. But if anybody has another board meeting that has similar capabilities, please let me know. We definitely need to find collaborative spaces. And that's it. So thank you, everyone, for participating. Thank you, L-17 Studios. Thank you, Ryan, and our participants from the Greenlight Committee today. Any kind of questions, comments, concerns, life, death, horses, war?
Looking good. Looking good. Thank you for putting this on the calendar and putting it together.
Thank you for participating. I appreciate it, my friend. All right.
Yep.
Have a good one, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan. Stuck at my house. Dawn, it's 9-hour flight. So.
Thanks. Yeah, just start drinking. I'll be there. I'll be there soon.
Yeah. Okay.
Mimosas at Mark's. Got it. On my way.
Have a good day.